Hey guys. Apparently some of my destinations are wrong on the live stream, so I'm not sure where it's going and where it's not going anymore. Just wanted to say good evening to everybody. It's a Friday evening. It's going to be an amazing show. We are going to have the KEW exchange where knowledge through experience transforms into wisdom. And it's going to be about a spiritual awakening with Andrea Squared, Andrea Sanchez and Andrea Kahami Summers. I'm getting closer to pronouncing that correctly. And I actually met Andrea Kahami Summers at Andrea Sanchez's event, and we connected immediately and went from there. So they're here somewhere. Yeah, they were there. Okay, cool.
Happy Friday. Hello.
Happy Friday to everybody. So today is about a spiritual awakening, and this is something that we have all experienced in one way or another. I've had a few of them because I'm stubborn, and I really think that this is something that needs to be discussed with everything that's going on now. And I think that we start out with AKS and let her run with it for a few minutes because she is the most grounded, centered human being I think I've ever met, and she could explain it better than I can at this point.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful to be here with both of you. And Andrea Squared, my other half. Andrea, for giving me the opportunity to speak my truth. It was the end of July, beginning of August. And since then, it was like a rocket ship that took off. Like that's where Mike saw me speak, and it's been growth, spiritual growth, and helping lots and lots and lots of people, which is awesome because that's why I'm here. So, spiritual path, you want to hear, like, I'll just speak. And then you can be like, what about that story? Since both of you guys know me really well. The question I always get asked is when did you know? When did you know? When did you start? I was 3 or 4 years old. I was a toddler and I had a vision. And in that moment, my mom saw it and witnessed it, but she didn't see it. And that was the beginning of me knowing that I was different and I had some abilities, but you're a toddler. I had no way to articulate any of that. I just knew I was different. I had another experience that was with negative entities also while a toddler, about 5 years old. And in that range. I had no way of explaining it to anybody. Like I was alone when it happened and nobody believed me. So I learned over the years just to hide it. I didn't speak about it with most of my friends. And when I try to go into like speaking about some of my abilities, or I was raised Catholic, so like going to Catholic school, tried to explain some of that just to test the waters with people and what they would think. And I got lots of reactions, but none of them positive. None of them like, oh, that's cool. Tell me more. Just fear, weirdness, or why would you believe that? So I just learned to kind of shut it down. And, I didn't have the reinforcement from my family to explore any of that. So it just went away and got hidden in a box, locked away for a long time, even though I could see things, feel things because I'm intuitive. I'm also an empath. Recently, I think, Mike, you shared something about all the different types of empaths and what you can feel. Well, we can use Inauguration Day. This past Wednesday as a great example. I could feel every human in this world. I could feel fear, sadness, hope, depression, anger, frustration. The US, I could feel lots of really intense feelings. And then worldwide, I could feel eyes on us, but also wondering what's going to happen. To the point where I had to completely ground myself before I went into a business meeting where obviously that was not going to be the topic. So I've had these abilities my whole life. I just didn't have words to put to it until I was an adult and I started doing research. And it wasn't until about 2008. So 2005 to 2008, I had my second son in 2005, and I went into a 3-year depression. I had no idea that I was depressed. So if anybody is feeling off for an extended period of time, please, please, please speak to your doctor. reach out and get help. I just thought that that meant you should have been crying. Like if you were depressed, that you'd be crying every day. And that's not what depression is. I learned that much later. But in 2008, there was a moment when I was looking at my kids playing outside and I had nothing in me. I was like, I don't care if I live or die in this moment. I'm like, there's nothing. The kids will have their dad, they'll be raised and they'll be fine and I'm okay. So I'm out. I'm good. And in that moment, what I know now were my guides. They stepped in and they were like, you need to start writing. You need to find you again. And they pushed me like in front of the computer to the point where I wrote my first novel. I wrote the first 70 pages of it in one weekend. And as I wrote and wrote and wrote, I would go back and read and I'm like, I didn't realize that I actually wrote that. That was good. It sounds awesome. And now I know I was channeling. So it's another one of my abilities and gifts. But I think the bigger story of all of this is that as I was writing, I was channeling stories from my past lives and stories of my soulmates, who are the main characters of my books. And it was my interaction with them. And from about 7,000 years ago in that range, I could see that lifetime with them. I could see what transpired at that time. And I met both of them in 2011. So I had no idea who these people were. I didn't know them at all. In 2008, when I started writing, it was just that I could see these individuals and I could feel their souls, like detectives do fingerprints. Every soul has a signature. I could feel it. I could see it. I could see their main characteristics and their eyes. Their eyes were piercing, and I captured that in my stories. And then in 2011, they both crossed my path within a few months of one another. And that moment when you're like, oh my God, I know them, but now I know why I know them. And crap, I can't tell them why I know them. I can't act like I can't run up to them and hug them and embrace them and say like, I've been waiting for you for so long. It's so awesome to know you and see you, and just to be reserved and be like, hi, nice to meet you. How are you today? And I have all these memories of our past lives together. So spiritual awakening, those abilities led to around between, I want to say 2011, 2012, up through 2015, me honing those gifts, working on them, doing all kinds of research, because I didn't have any soul teachers. I didn't have spiritual guides in human form talking to me, other than the ones who were invisible talking to me, making me feel like I'm crazy, because nobody else would believe me if I told them any of that. So in the past decade, spiritual evolution, spiritual journey, what does it mean? To me, it was coming into my own being, into my power, and understanding my abilities, while at the same time letting go of ego, letting go of everything that's attached to that and to the human side of things. And when I say that, it's the anger, the frustration, the fear, the sadness. Fear, I want to reinforce that because lots of people are feeling that, especially right now. But fear tethers you to the inability to grow, and it keeps you trapped. You are imprisoned in yourself. And when you're afraid, you won't take the chance at a career path that you might actually feel is the right way. But everyone around you is saying, no, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you do that? Or in a relationship, making a step because everyone is saying something, or there's just judgment around you, or self-judgment, or the lack of self-love. So my spiritual transformation came into all of that, to the point where in the past couple years, do these moments still come up and those feelings, are they present? Yes. I just know how to process it in a holistic way where I don't internalize it anymore, because I'm living my purpose, which is to help others. So Mike, thank you very much for what you shared generously just about me being grounded, but that's really where it comes from. It's not about me. There's 7 billion people on this planet. I'm here for a reason in this lifetime, and I need to help the people that I can through my healing abilities or other abilities, and coach other souls along the way.
That's amazing. And yes, I do know that story and I love that story. And other than having a glowing triangle above my head, which is almost makes me as bright as you two are. It's brilliant. So Andrea Sanchez, you are wait, okay, that just confused me. Um, so you are just starting this path, and I want to share your experience because there's many people out there that don't even know what they're going through, and I think it's important. And then I can share a few stories which will probably make this more R-rated, but that's okay, and we can just go from there.
Yes, so thank you, Mike. And I am just starting this path. A year ago, actually, I was in a whole other path. I was a totally different person, actually. I didn't realize this was called an awakening until I actually started to speak more with my Andrea squared counterpart, Andrea Kohalmi. It to get a better idea, I'll go back a year or so ago, 2 years ago actually. What really started to change my mindset was getting away from the clutter. And I didn't realize I was getting away from the clutter um, until it hit me that I had more time to think. And what caused this was I had to relocate across the world to Azerbaijan. I lived in Houston, Texas all my life, but my husband company relocated us there. Completely different world, completely different culture, completely different way of life. I didn't know who I was anymore. Everything that that was comfortable to me was uncomfortable all of a sudden. So that really rattled me, but in a good way. It shifted my mindset. It made me start to think differently in ways that I can connect with others, and in ultimately ways that I can connect with myself, because the person I thought I was coming from America was the person that had been molded by so many past experiences, jobs, careers, professors, instructors, whatever it may be. But I always, always, always was there to make sure others liked me, make sure that I performed well and others were satisfied with how I was coming across. So I would get my worth from others. So if others didn't say I did it good or did a good job, then I consider myself unworthy. So I got so caught up in working and working and working and working, so people could just tell me good job, Andrea, because I didn't get that growing up as much. So going back to Azerbaijan, and I was there a lot of time thinking. I lived there for about a year. Um, that got me introduced to the world of social media, which I knew existed, but I didn't know the capacity and the strength that it had. To hear all of these voices way across the world, all over the world, from all different backgrounds and perspectives. And that's all they were voices. There wasn't any judgment. There wasn't any, you're from here, you're from there, you look this way, you don't, your voice is loud, you're an introvert, you're an extrovert. Everyone was just a voice. And having that clutter out of the way and having all those environments, which I didn't realize were affecting me at the time, got me to really think clearly. And it was the most most difficult exercise probably that I had to do, because I had to confront myself all over again, get to know myself, who I was. Through the social media, I found these wonderful people that introduced me to all these different groups. And from there, I met another and another and another from all different walks of life, but they all had one thing in common. They were very heart-centered, and they were very human-centered. Like they were speaking from the soul. They weren't, you could tell it was very authentic. So my whole circle pretty much changed. Once I changed that circle and I cleared that clutter, I didn't realize I was on the path to clearing a clutter. Kind of like now I realize it was the universe working for me. And despite all the hints it tried to give me along the way, I was too stubborn or too busy to listen. So I was able to actually move forward by force in a good way when I relocated. So when I came back, a year later, people were starting to say, Andrea, you just seem very different. You don't seem like the same person. Back then, I started to, get very antsy and very self-conscious, because I'm like, oh no, I'm not coming across the way I should be, or I'm not pleasing them or living up to their expectations. But then that was me going back to the clutter. And then now I realize that when people were saying that, it actually is a compliment, because it means that I showed growth in myself. Now, I continued to grow that year. I left a really great job, which I loved, but something deep inside me, because of all the thinking, told me that there was something else. I didn't know what it was, but there was something else, and I needed to follow it. So people thought I was crazy, and I left my pretty much career in corporate communications and nonprofit communications, and I started my own company. Didn't know what I was doing. I was really depressed that first year. I tried so many things to try and get really motivated, but then that, and in essence, right now, I realized that that was another exercise in clearing the clutter, because I got to know more of who I was, and what I liked and what I didn't like, and what I believed in and what I didn't believe in, and actually what I wanted my company that I had formed to become. Before, I was just following, I guess, what I was told all this time that I was good at, but what you're good at may be different from what your heart really wants to follow. So it was a big lesson. And during that year, I can say right now, I probably was severely pretty depressed. I thought I was like under a cloud. I was confused. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life. So it wasn't until August of that 2018 where I was in the garage, and I was about to go in my car, and I was about to back out to go, I guess it was the grocery store. I don't remember where it was, but something, before I closed the door of my car, I had put on the engine, but right out as I was about to back out, I saw something like something in my daughter's bike was about to fall over the car and kind of smash it. So I quickly got out of the car and tried to push it back over. Little did I know, the car was still on. It wasn't on park. And the car all of a sudden started inching itself back. And I was right by the door of the driver's seat, halfway open. One of my feet was inside the car, and my other foot was pushing the bike away. The car started rolling faster and faster, and I didn't know what to do. My first instinct was to try and get in there and push the brakes, but it was pointless. The car was super heavy. I couldn't do anything, and sure enough, kept going faster backwards, and I could just sense that this was a lost cause. And when I was going backwards, I could just, the thing that flashed in my mind was, okay, maybe this is it. This is the way I'm going to go. It's going to run into me. I have no way of, this is no way out. So I guess this is it. And I was accepting it. And before I knew it, everything was gone. I blacked out. I don't know how much time went by, but before I blacked out, I felt something push me. So I don't know how much time went by, but I woke up. I was in the middle of the street with obviously some bad bruises and cuts and everything, but it was just on my left arm. Everything was perfect on this side of the body, which was the part of the body that was inside the car. I was very rattled, as you can imagine. The first thing I did was look back, and I saw that the car had stopped right before it hit the window of my neighbor's house, and the door was still open. I'm like, what the heck? And so I didn't know what strength I had at that time, because I was so rattled. So I went and ran to my neighbor's yard, because all I could think of was, oh my gosh, why does someone seize me? Instead of thinking I should be dead right now and be grateful. So I went in the car, I put it on, and I went back in my garage and shut the door. But I was shaking for about 2 hours after that, and with all my wounds and everything. But to this day, I can't imagine I survived that. I can't believe I survived that, because the part of me that was inside the car, there was nothing. The only part of me that was full of bruises and scars and blood was my right side. And luckily, I didn't damage my head or anything. So when I went back and I cleaned myself up and I was taking off my clothes, the sweater that I had on, it was like an open. It was a sweater that you kind of you have buttons. So I was taking that off, and I realized at the very top right here, there was a few. You could see like a few tire tracks right here, right here, and then right by them, I swear to God, you could see like what looked like the impressions of like a feather. And I don't know if I was just seeing things at that point, but I'm like, what is this? This makes no sense, because I have nothing on me. And to that day, when I told my husband, I'm like, you're not going to believe this, but I'm just going to tell you what just happened to me. And the car was fine, not a single dent, nothing. And he's like, well, it looks like this was not your time to go. And those words just stayed with me. And ever since that day, I'm like, have totally different perspective, because I'm like, okay, something out there wants me to still be here. And I don't know how I survived that, but please guide me in what I'm supposed to do. And that was the day I let go, and I started to trust the journey. And whatever I feel I'm coming to, as far as an idea or something that I feel in my heart, or something that I try to block away, like a thought, I start trusting it more, and I start doing it. Just like these worthy rallies that I started to do about 7 months ago. I had a dream that January 27th, you have to do this, Andrea. Do what? I have no idea, but you have to do this. So I trusted that, and soon a program came together, and now I'm doing it every month. So it's my awakening. I think the universe was trying to set me up for it, but little by little, one, to get rid of the clutter so I can truly notice what was going on and be in a position that I was receptive to realizing that something was going on. And also just really shake me up to and something out there to let me know, we've got you. And this is to prove to you that there's something there that's got you. And if you can just trust us, we will lead you in the right direction. So fast forward to now, I met Andrea. She had these amazing gifts. The first person I ever spoke to that I could resonate with, and she actually, because of her, I trusted more in my journey, and I opened up more to think that, okay, maybe I'm not crazy, because there's other people like this. So and the rest is history. Then I met you, Mike, and you're very similar, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there are a lot of us out there going through this, so you don't have to feel alone. Some of us are brand new, like me. Some of us have been there for a long time, many lifetimes, but it's amazing. And I'm scared. I'm really scared, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like this new awakening is so exciting and unbelievable, but at the same time it's scary, because I just hope I can live up to what I'm supposed to do.
Well,
Oh,
I mean, you already are. So you're here, first of all, and you're still accomplishing things. Now your head's glowing with a triangle. Yes.
Mhm.
You're you're already there. I mean, you're doing it, right? So I created this concept today, and I look at time as a man-made construct, right? It's something that man created. It doesn't really exist. You can go outside the timeline, and that's all sorts of fun stuff. We can talk about that at some point. But that could be a great conversation. We could really discuss how Back to the Futures are just way off, but that's beside. But so if we look at it that time is a man-made construct, then whatever we want to accomplish has already been completed, and we're just living the experience.
That's true.
So it's already done. You've already done it. Now we just got to live it. So that's it. That if you flip it to that perspective, then you're already then your confidence is there, because it's already done. You just got to be your best self every day, good or bad, and just walk through it. My spiritual awakenings, because they're plural. First one was I was about 5 years old. Don't know exactly what happened, but I had an out of body experience. Another one when I was drowning at, I think, 8. Another one when I drowned again. A few times when I OD'd. Well, lots of times when I OD'd. Let me restate that. Then there was other times. Then my real awakening was in 2007 when I got sober. And that one, I had a human guide that wasn't very on the up and up. And I felt very manipulated, very used, very taken advantage of. And my abilities and gifts were used for bad intent. And I felt very scarred from it and very ashamed that I fell into that. At that point, I settled into my bad marriage, which I knew was bad from the day I started it, and knew it was bad from a year before I started it. I shut myself back down. I woke up one time during the marriage, which is when my soon-to-be ex dropped my son on his head and he almost died, and went out of my way to heal him, even though that the police wouldn't let me near him. And I shut back down until recently. And looking back, as much as my recent awakening started around June or July, it really started the day that I left that relationship and chose myself, which was June 11th, 2018. That was when I really started again, because I walked into myself. And I finally started stepping into myself again and standing up for myself. Right. And I've talked about my childhood in many ways and many different times. And, there was abuse, there was a lot of self-doubt, a lot of self-blame, a lot of guilt, a lot of shames. I became the underachiever just because it was an easier thing to live up to, and I could always excel at that. So that was easy. And I never had confidence. I never believed in myself. And even leaving that circumstance on June 11th, I didn't believe in myself then either. But I also knew that based on my previous life experience and lives, that I couldn't do anything to end my life anyway. So I might as well have kept just going. And I just took it one day at a time. And it felt like no matter what I did from June 11th until pretty much February 18th, when I got the evidence again of the abuse against my children, I couldn't make a single right move. I couldn't do anything correctly. And it felt like this losing battle that I was just going to struggle for the rest of my life with. I had this enormous purpose, enormous reason for being here, and I felt like no matter what, I couldn't fulfill it. And I felt truly hopeless. And as I sank into the depression after getting the evidence and getting my kids with the emergency order and getting all these different things, I mean, I talk about it all the time. Annie introduced me to Brene Brown, introduced me to many different things that opened my eyes and allowed me to start healing my emotional self, which after 14 years sober, I never did. And when I started healing my emotional self is when I started to align again. And as I started to align, I started stepping into myself and trusting myself again, and started having my gifts reappear again in a clear way, because they were always there, but I didn't trust them after getting manipulated and felt like I was being used and everything else. So I finally started trusting them because I was doing it for myself for the first time. And then once I saw Andrea Kahami speak, I'm going to mispronounce it. Andrea Summers.
You did it right.
Did I? Because I'll never do it again. So let's not pretend. But when I saw Andrea speak at Andrea's event, okay. Now the fact that we're all empaths and we all jumped at the same time was really ironic. That's just proof. But I immediately reached out to you before you even finished speaking. And I knew it right away, right? Like there's this familiar, we're just family. And I know that. And and we instantly connected, and we instantly knew who we were, and we instantly just started syncing. And because by that time you were already so much further along than me on your journey and set in your confident ways, that it brought stability to that side of myself, and it reconfirmed in a healthy in a healthy pure way that my gifts, abilities, purpose would be fulfilled, and I started trusting them again. And it hasn't been a straight line, right? Like, anybody who knows me, this is not a straight line. I don't do anything in a straight line. um, but it like, I get entangled, I get mixed up, my emotions still get involved at times, and I'm still going through this, right? But one thing I know for sure is that when it's a one-on-one conversation, my intuition now leads the way, and I step out of the way of it completely. Now, when I'm alone, sitting in a room, that's a different story. The conversations with myself aren't always great, although I feel like I have many personalities. It's just not great conversations, and I really argue with myself quite a bit. So I don't know what people are talking about, not of fighting with yourself, but like, it's just been this whole experience: the headaches, the migraines, the fighting it, the body aches, the pain. That fourth quarter of last year was just torturous, right? And so many people were just loading up on Advil or Tylenol and saying this is just body aches for no unexplained reason. These energy shifts and what's really going on in the universe um, has really been impacting everyone in an enormous way. And I don't think people understand the gravity of what's going on, or the realistic, even scientific data behind it. Because at this point, even scientists can't deny it. And it's very evident. Andrea, do you want to? Okay, that's not going to work. This one, Summers. Do you want to? do you want to? Do you want to go a little bit more into detail about the shifts that are going on? So,
Yeah, absolutely. And for both of you, a message for both of you. Imagine what would have happened had you not arrived at, what was it, August 2020? Like, Andrea, without your worthy rallies, I wouldn't have spoken my truth. I wouldn't have met Mike. Mike, if you weren't here, like, think about how many people you've introduced me to that I've now been able to help and heal as they're like walking on their journeys. So I did want to mention to both of you and to everyone who's listening, actually, that our journeys are never a straight line. So Mike, you are hitting that on a target, like wind around and whatever, take the scenic route if you need to.
I've got this on lockdown. Like, I am doing great on the long way. I am taking that scenic route.
I mean, ultimately, we all fulfill our purposes. We can get into this next piece, like maybe further down in the conversation if there's time, but we have multiple exit points too. So Andrea, it wasn't your time to go. It was one of the times, but you stayed. And in that regard, when you think about it, and I know Mike shared his, and I've had my moments as well. Had we gone, we wouldn't have connected. We wouldn't be here today impacting other people who need to hear the message and to feel that they're not alone. So we're all here today for a reason. And that is beautiful, along with everybody else on this planet. You're all here for a reason right now at this time. The cosmic stuff that's been happening, it's been building for years, about 10 years. And the past year, it was meant to deconstruct, devolve everything that we knew to be, everything that we were comfortable with. I'd say the vast majority of people were impacted by COVID one way or another, whether financially or business wise, or someone in their family was impacted by it. It touched pretty much everybody on this planet. Along with it came, well, it didn't come with it, but in conjunction at the same time, I should say, there were cosmic energy flares. You know what solar flares are? Like the sun puts out extra big energy pulses that end up hitting our technology or our satellites, and then Wi-Fi goes out, whatever it is. It was that equivalent, but coming in across the universe and impacting us. Just picture like a flare of something coming through, and Earth is here, and it's just going through Earth and around it. All of us are part of this. All of our bodies are energy. Our very presence is energy. So we were impacted, and our bodies, to the point you made, Mike, is that our bodies were either fighting it or figuring out a way to adapt to it. So most of us have been sick, not ironically, for the past few years. It's been developing and building to what culminated at the end of last year. Many, many people were ill in many, many different ways. This is where energy healing can also step in, and understanding how to ground your own energy and what is yours versus what is not. Also, what you feel from earth energy. What do you feel from the people around you? If you're sick, it might not actually be because of bacteria. There might be something else that's going on. So all of that now is leading into this January period where it is going to be tumultuous actually for a few more years. But for each soul, January is a period of peace and yet discovery. And I know many of you, like Mike, you and I talked about this, like we're in like back-to-back meetings all the time. But at the same time, like I've never been happier in my entire life. I'm living my purpose in a whole bunch of different ways. And time has become irrelevant. The construct of time and business, it's evolving into something different. But where do our souls need to be? How are we going to adapt and go with the flow, the energy flow, instead of resisting? The more we resist the changes, the more we resist the energy flows that are happening, whether we see it or not, whether you believe it or not, it's impacting your body. So it's important to find a holistic way of being right now and as we move into the future.
It's interesting, right? Like all these changes that are going on, and every time I put my hand here, it gets darker. I don't know what's wrong with my phone, but it hits me. Didn't work. Anyway, I finger mustache the whole time. Yes, maybe. I don't know. Makes me feel a little lopsided. I think, looking at where we're going and where we're heading as humanity is evolving in a way. We've been in almost like a dark ages for like the last 50 years, right? Where humanity has been tearing itself down, cannibalizing itself, trying to make strides forward, but making them backwards even further. 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps back, 20 steps back, depending on which election we talk about. But it's oh, it did work that time. No, I don't know what it is. It's really strange. So fingers. I feel like ET. There's just so many moving parts to this, right? And around the world, there are so many people that are looking for answers that don't know how to find them. And I gotta tell you, there's been so many times in my life that I didn't have a human guide, right? And what are my kids doing? I hear them over my noise canceling headphones. That's a bad sign. Well, Sid's still up apparently. That's her tablet. Perfect. As she sits at the table naked, I'm sure trying to find food. So this is great. This is life, right? This is what we deal with on a daily basis. So whether it's dogs barking, naked kids running around, or just it doesn't really matter. I don't even know where I was anymore. I'm lost track, and I don't do that normally, but I did lose track that time. So
you went back 50 years.
Yeah, and how we're
I would say it's longer than that. Yeah,
it is, but we can start with 50. I mean, we can go back to, I guess,
thousands.
Yeah,
many thousands.
That's a whole different story that most people won't grasp. Again, time is a man-made construct, so it's hard to grasp. It would be life. Yeah, you're right. Without Sid, it's not the same. Sid has to make her appearance.
I haven't seen her in a while.
Well,
I miss her.
She's naked right now, so not seeing her.
Oh, okay, no.
Like she's
I was-
literally sitting. She's sitting at the table naked with her iPad blasting. Because she can't hear it apparently. But Andrea, take over. I don't know where I was going.
Sid is free. Sid is free in her own being right now, and what we're experiencing is being human. Our souls are in our human experience, and it's crafting what we create as stories, and then we perpetuate it of like, well, this is what needs to be because this is what we've learned. This is what we grow from. But if we accept that and believe it, Andrea Sanchez, to your point, you had a narrative that you believed, and until you deconstructed that narrative and you're like, that's just a story in my life, like this is me. All of a sudden it's like, it's the feeling of Sid being naked at that table, turning her iPad all the way up and just being free. And it feels awesome when you finally let go of all the inhibitions. Doesn't matter what anybody else says. We're all, and I have to be very clear with this too, like, even though we're living spiritual lives where people, whether it's religiously, politically, ideologically, culturally, might not believe or understand our experiences or what I'm saying in the moment, everything I say, do, and my actions, I try to always ground it in positivity and from the heart, so that I'm always believing and acting, thinking, speaking from love. There's nothing wrong with that, but you can't fully do that until you're free from all the other stuff. And Mike, to the point you made earlier about the healer who manipulated, I think that's the scary thing for people who are awakening right now. You can go online and you can find healers, like tons and tons of healers who do all kinds of things, but how do you know it's someone you can trust? I think, Mike, it was you or somebody else recently who said to me, like, you know, I'm like the psychic with the glowing neon light, like in the shop sometimes. And you don't know, is it a real one? Can I trust that person? I had someone in my life, there was one human healer that was right at the beginning of my journey that I had gone to. And because I could see the things that she would see, meaning clairvoyant and understanding how energy can be manipulated, the things she asked me to do, I knew would harm other people in my space. And she was pushing me to do it. And I refused to do it. So when you have people who are healers who are just believing that they're right, not listening to the person they're working with, or using their energy and their abilities for wrong or for their own selfish purposes, that's not a healer. So it's important that these conversations are happening. Mike, thank you for having both of us on tonight, because it's so important to have an open dialogue around it and have people ask questions.
Well, there's
I'm
a
looking
question.
at Kelly. Thank you, Kelly. How do you know who to trust in this? I would say for anyone who is seeking help or guidance and they go to a person's website or they're referred to somebody, if you're an empath or intuitive, you can get certain feelings, something that feels positive or negative, something's pushing you away, or that like gut feeling that's like, I don't know. You can pick that up in words or from words and images on a website. Trust that gut instinct. The other way is if you're in conversation with somebody and who's a healer, and in that moment of having a dialogue and you're sharing what your needs are, and they start speaking to you, the words they're using, the way they're present with you, and the solutions that they're providing for you, if at any moment you're like, this doesn't seem right, listen to that. All of us have an inner voice, regardless of any abilities that you have. Everybody has an inner voice. Don't pay $1,000 to a healer and 5 minutes in, you're like, I don't feel like I can trust this person. Don't suffer. There's something that's telling you, it's self-preservation that's coming through and telling you this isn't right.
It made me dark again. I don't know. I just put the hand up and it still made me dark. So like, okay, so I come across a lot of healers. Okay, Sid, you want more apples? Um, s- you want your ice cream? How about you put clothes on? Why would I do that? That's what you just said. Why would I do that? Go ahead, Sid. You're good. Welcome to life of a 3-year-old. Go ahead. Yeah, it's frozen. It's ice cream, you silly goose. Oh yeah, child. So, life with Mike. Um, so I come across so many healers, right? And Sid, go sit down, please. Uh-huh. I come across so many healers, and I really think that 95% of them have good intent.
Mhm.
I really do believe that. I think some of them might be misguided in how they do things, or maybe they didn't learn the right way, or experience it the right way themselves, or need to heal themselves first, right? And that's a big component to all this. And
That's the biggest
let's
one. I'm s-
so
that's
let's
the biggest one.
make the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I love you, Jenny Gold. That was hysterical. Sid ate 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches when I was live with Emily Harmon. Um, so okay, so let's take a step out of this question for 1 second, and I'm going to sidetrack it. As far as self-healing and personal healing, there for me there is multiple levels to it, right? I needed to mentally reprogram or deprogram or rewire or whatever you want to call it, right? And then I needed to emotionally reprogram and heal and process and release. And then I needed to spiritually heal myself. And that's a whole different level, because when you start going into spiritual healing, you're talking about past lives. You're talking about karmic cycles. You're talking about baggage that you're carrying that isn't only from this lifetime. And there is steps to this that, while they seem out there, it is real, and you feel the difference, and you just intuitively know it's different. So, Sanchez, let's go to Sanchez for this one. As far as the rewiring and the emotionally healing, like what kind of steps have you taken to work that out with yourself? And Kelly's multitasking.
Stop making your face dark. Stop touching it.
Oh, wait, now I'm frozen. Oh, I'm done. That's it.
The road to self-healing. Um, so I have to admit that's still an ongoing road, but it all goes back to what I was saying is first making time and recognizing that you need to heal. And just because you're healing doesn't mean you were ever broken, because that's how I was led to believe that I was broken. So that got in the way of lots of things that I could have done a lot earlier in my life. But I was so wired into proving to people I wasn't broken, and working much too hard, and perhaps not having enough time to really know myself or enjoy life. So the first step is to just stop. And sometimes, like my experience in the past, is you have forced experiences that make you stop, if you have the luxury of that happening to you. If not, it's time perhaps to put on the brakes, stop, and start questioning your actions, start questioning your thoughts. If you're starting to put yourself down, that was my biggest thing. If you start to put yourself down with self-talk and you don't even realize you're doing it or thinking it, stop yourself and ask, why are you thinking that at this moment? Is it just all in your head? Well, maybe it is. You're right. Does someone else think that of you? No. Did someone say that about you? No. Even if they did, do you really believe that? No. So it's just a conversation with yourself, and making the time to do that. It sounds silly, but it works. Um, Sometimes, like, also when I catch myself getting upset or frustrated, I like, so why are you really frustrated? Why are you really upset? And then at the end of the day, you realize that you've been putting forth your energy into something that's not even worthwhile, or maybe not even existence. And it's all in your head. So I started to believe that episodes like that, and sometimes these thoughts just randomly come in my head. And sometimes I don't know how they come in my head, but it's because I find the more that I start questioning and give room for healing and getting rid again of that clutter, of that toxicity, or whatever it may be that was getting in my way of my heart trying to speak to me, or now that I know my soul trying to speak to me, the more I am paying attention and willing to listen. And sometimes, to your point, Andrea, of healers, sometimes you may never realize you're not classifying yourself as a healer, but perhaps you are the healer in that conversation, and you will never realize that you were, just because of the words that came out of your mouth, or the emotions, or the body language, or whatever, your presence. It was just meant to be. And I don't know if, as a first timer in this thing of the awakening, I've been lately been realizing that sometimes I write things or say things and I have no idea where it came from. And I'm like, that sounded pretty good. Exactly like you were saying, Andrea, and Mike, I know you've said it before. And I've never had those experiences before, but if you just start opening yourself up, you'll be amazed at the insights and the words that come out of you. And it's really a sign to, if you take the time to heal yourself, you're at the same time healing others, because others may be dependent on hearing your words that day or having your presence. But if you don't open yourself up first to healing, you may not ever have a chance to give back, and that someone will never have a chance to recover themselves.
Sorry, the naked Sid wanted a back scratch. This is life. So, okay, Summers. I just can't do it right now. I'm too distracted.
And they're both AS. Thank God you have
Yeah,
an A.
I know.
Hence the reason Andrea squared.
Yeah. I never even thought about that, actually. Can you talk about spiritual healing and how it's deeper than just how is, I think you're frozen, or I'm frozen, or someone's frozen. I don't know what's going on.
We're all working.
Tap your head, put or do something with
Me?
your body. Always, if something works, like lighting is from your nose.
I don't. Yeah, seriously. All right. So how does spiritual healing, and how does somebody take steps to even start working and healing themselves, right? Because we have a natural innate ability to heal ourselves, but people don't believe in themselves enough to do it.
I think you really hit the nail on the head earlier when you're like, we've got our human experience, the human self, but then there's the spiritual self, like there's the body, there's the soul, and everything in between. What Andrea just shared is spot on. It starts in your mind, not the brain part, but the mind that's connected to your spirit and soul. The stories that you're telling yourself, why are they there? It's the self-investigating and understanding that you need to figure out that negative space that you're in. Like when we're talking about healing of anything, it's something negative, right? Whether it's a broken arm or it's my heart that's broken, figuratively, like all of those are in a negative space. So it starts with those conversations. Spiritual healing is once you've done the human healing, and the emotional healing that's connected to that, because that impacts energetic healing. And as you shift your mindset and you're in a more positive space, you're actually raising your energy and your frequency, your body's energy frequency, into a higher vibrational state. In those moments, you're actually opening your awareness even further. And the spiritual awakening, to me, like, is there an aha moment? Not necessarily. Like, there are multiple aha moments along the way, but when you're finally there, we'll talk a little bit about like how to get there, but a lot of it is self-reflection. A lot of it is figuring out who you are. But a lot of people, you don't even need to know that. It's this comfort and peace within yourself. I mean, spiritual awakening is truly when you're living your truth. It's that simple. Nobody can impact you if you're living your truth. Nobody can drag you down and hurt your feelings. I mean, yeah, someone can say something to you, you might acknowledge it, but at that same point, you're in this state of like, people have opinions. It's okay. I love myself. I'm doing what I need to do to make the world a better place, whether I'm a stay-at-home mom or I'm a guru coaching people doing something, or I'm a business leader somewhere else, trying to bring positivity into this world. So the path, the spiritual healing path, to me, there's no one way of doing it. There's so many different humans in this planet. We all have different souls. Our souls come from different places. We're created at different times. There's not one way. But what you can do is can you guys still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sorry, I saw that I froze. But the one thing we can do is actually to have those conversations, seek out additional information from certain sources about like, well, what is the soul's journey? If I want to know what my purpose is, I meditate. I go inside, and the meditations, whether it's energetic or it's through breathing or it's visualizations, I receive information. And when I receive that information, usually it's like either puzzle pieces or clues. So those puzzle pieces put together a beautiful picture in the end for all of us. So that's my process. And Mike, as you and I have talked about along the way, we all have soul families. There are certain triggers, certain moments in our lives that piece things together one by one, that create a picture, a rich picture for all of us. But it's an experience. Take a look, for all of you out there, take a look at the people in your life. Who are the people that you just clicked with right away, that feel like they're family, even if they're not family, or the people that you might have dreamt about and someday they showed up in your life. These magical moments or coincidences aren't actually coincidences. All of us are highly intuitive. All of us know the path. We knew that before we incarnated, but as humans, you forget. Sid!
Everybody's saying hi, Sid.
Hi, mwah, kisses.
You have ice cream everywhere.
Hi, Sid.
Like, come on, Sid. Really? Sid, you're naked. You can't get on top of me.
That's the perfect message. If we're grounded in love,
Yeah, really?
and self-love and freedom and happiness, we've unleashed ourselves.
Yeah, there you
You
go.
can live your spiritual truth and being.
You're gonna have a bunch of streakers running around and all over the news tonight.
I didn't say be human. I didn't say that.
That's what's gonna end up
Be
happening.
careful what you say.
Stop throwing stuff at me now.
Oh.
She's playing fetch with herself, so at least it's occupying her.
You have your crown back on, Mike.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. I might need it for tonight. So I think explain soulmates a little bit, Andrea, because I think that gets very confused, and I don't think that people understand it enough. And we could probably do a whole episode just on soulmates.
I'll keep it as simple as I can, and then yes, I think another episode would be awesome about that topic. Soulmates are the people who impact you. That is done in both a positive and negative way. So there are some soulmates that are meant to wreak havoc in your life, like complete havoc. And in that moment, it's meant to teach us, so our souls grow stronger. We learn from those experiences. Soulmates are sent to help us learn. Good, bad, and ugly. And they are not necessarily romantic partners. They can be children, a friend. There are so many different configurations. It could be someone that you haven't met, but you virtually connected and they're on the other side of the world. But there's this instant connection and you can feel it. You can feel it with that person. Like my real life examples, like I know a father-daughter combo of soulmates. My eldest son is my mom's soulmate, to the point where when he was a little bitty toddler, he was calling her mommy and me grandma. Felt awesome. But they can show up in all kinds of different ways. And if we have enough time and you're okay with it, Mike, I'll share one piece of my soulmate story, because it actually ties into the link that I sent to Kelly, if you want to share it, and I'll explain why. So my soulmate, who I'm now married to, it did end up being a romantic one in this lifetime, even though we've had all kinds of different partnerships, relationships across other lives. But the one, like, we had a karmic cycle from our last lifetime that I was not at peace with. He went off to war and like just left. So as he was walking off the porch, he turned around to kiss me goodbye as I was holding our baby daughter. And we were young, like we were teenagers. This was Civil War era. And he never came home. And I carried that weight with me. It destroyed my entire being, my human experience. I lost my daughter. Like someone else had to take care of her. That life, without going into additional details, I just lost everything ultimately with it. And every day, all I wanted was just one more day with him. I brought that into this lifetime. And as I started meditating and learning to meditate, and I opened up to the visions that were coming in, and I started processing those and better understanding what I was seeing, and then piecing together stories, even though he wasn't in my life humanly when I had these visions, I knew that there was someone for me, and that this person who I had seen and I had written about was such a significant person within my soul's very essence and existence. And I knew that if I just had that one more moment with him, that I'd be at peace. So I met him in 2011, and we were just friends for many, many years, and things never worked out. Our lives were in different places. We were going through different things. He could feel a connection, but he had his own life choices to make and his own journey to follow. So as a soulmate, I knew at that point, like, I have to let my soulmates go follow their path. I can't control it or dictate it, no matter what I feel. So I had to go through the process for years of monitoring those feelings, understanding where they were coming from, and that pain that I was feeling. He was my husband in my last lifetime. And that's not what we were in this lifetime. We were just friends, and I couldn't share any of this with him. Like, I had to let him be and make his own choices. And then the stars aligned ultimately for us around 2017. And we had one moment, and there was this one spark triggered actually by my other soulmate, who made a sarcastic comment that I happened to mention to Johnny. And all of a sudden it just clicked in a romantic way for the two of us. But I had my one moment with him where he realized that love that we shared in that past lifetime. And after that day, I was okay with letting it go. But that closed the karmic cycle that, Mike, you mentioned earlier on. Like, what do we carry from past lives? We bring from one life to the next. And if that soulmate from that particular lifetime happens to be with us in this lifetime, we have unfinished business that we need to process. Once he and I both processed that, we were able to actually move forward and have a positive relationship in this lifetime, where our connection is no longer about worries and anxiety about very human things. He's living his journey and his purpose, and I support him in that. He supports me in mine, and that's it. The bottom line for us, there are no like rules and all those things that are in marriage. It's like there's love and kindness. That's what grounds us. We act from that space, which creates truth every day and complete dialogue. Meaning complete communication and acceptance of each other. You know, skeletons in the closet and everything else that transpired. We just love each other completely. The link that I had sent to Kelly before the show was actually to a song from Evanescence called Even in Death. When I heard this years ago, it just resonated so deeply with me, because it doesn't matter if we die. The human body dies, the soul does not. You continue to move forward. Your spiritual purpose continues to evolve across lifetimes. So if you didn't finish something, you're going to have a chance to do it again. That doesn't go away. And your soulmates travel with you. Sorry, Mike has
Again,
had many lifetimes to keep doing it.
yes, I like doing things the hard way, so apparently I'm still doing things the hard way, and I'm still learning. And I've been fortunate enough to have three soulmates cross my path in this life, and up until today, I've probably messed up with all three. But they keep revolving back in because there's lessons to be learned,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still trying to understand it and grasp it. And I got to tell you, it hurts. It hurts like hell, right? These karmic cycles are so torturous and painful. And allowing someone to take their own path while you're taking your own is even more painful sometimes.
There's
Because
no pain like that in the entire world. There
No.
isn't.
it is the most heart-wrenching, soul-wrenching, like deepest rooted pain I could ever imagine. And maybe I'm just being extreme because mine's been going on for so many lifetimes, literally, that I'm really just making up for quite a few lives. But it's almost impossible to explain. There is no pain imaginable that I've experienced yet. Now, granted, I'm sure there could be, but that I have experienced yet that even compares to the pain that I've felt through this process. It is at moments the most magical thing in the world. Everything in your life feels true. You feel like you're on top of the universe, literally. And then when it's bad, it's really bad. And the thing that I'm learning today is both sides have to be willing to make that journey for themselves. And I think that's the real lesson that I'm learning here in this life is whether it works out, whether it doesn't work out, whether anything comes out of it, whether it doesn't come out of it, my lesson is to learn that I need to allow and accept that I have my own path to take and that it cannot let it derail me or take me off that path because I've self-sacrificed on too many lives. We're all here for a larger purpose. We're all here for a bigger vision. We're all here to make an impact. This lifetime for everyone that's breathing right this second is different than any other one that they've ever lived, and I promise that. Yes, Sid. She was a Tyrannosaurus Rex. But this life is different than anyone previous. Yes, I'm happy. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate you, Sid. This one is different than any other. Humanity is at a tipping point in a lot of ways and at a crucial crossroads of do we live into being human and unite as a human race, or do we divide and tear each other apart? And I think we've seen the best and the worst of humanity over the last decade. And everyone's going to have a choice what they do with it from this point forward. My goal is to inspire others to move in a direction of unity and bringing people together and living in agape, unconditional love, and Ubuntu. I think I did that right, by the way.
You said it right.
That's it. That's impressive. See, I want a cookie.
Job.
Star. Oh, wait. Let me tilt my head. I can get a triangle over it. I feel like, hi, Sid. Yes, I know. You're like Cam. This is a life that things have to go right for humanity. And people need to overcome their differences, appreciate their uniquenesses, unify together, and inspire each other.
My butt was that.
Okay, baby. And inspire each other to be their best selves. Okay. Apparently she's going to wipe her butt.
So much for the serious conversation. And I put my hand in my face, so it got dark again.
I'm telling you, I don't know what this camera's doing. But yeah, I think that's where we're at. Sanchez, you have any closing remarks?
I'm just here in awe because I'm barely starting out in this awakening, but I'm in awe in what can be and the journey that can open up for me based on what you guys have been talking about your experiences. But I for anyone out there going through something very similar or feel like they are getting to know themselves all over again, or they're saying things they never realized that was in them, or just have this sudden urge to that there's something else that you're meant to do. Keep following that instinct, believe in the journey, because gosh, once you start believing and letting go, everything falls into place miraculously. It does. You have to be patient, but it does. Like Andrea said earlier, if one of us hadn't started one connection first and the other and the other and the other, then we all wouldn't be here speaking to each other. It took one action. Andrea said it was me doing the rally, but little does she know it was her that gave me the courage when she opened up and I met her at a workplace because of admitting that she had anxiety, and that made me realize I'm okay. I have anxiety too. So I'm not broken. So I felt like I had more of a voice, and that was just making me have more confidence in myself. And if I didn't have that moment, that's one of the moments that added up in a big way of where I am today and how we all eventually met. So believe in those moments, trust the journey, because you're meant to be exactly where you are right now.
100%. We are absolutely perfectly ourselves, and we are exactly perfectly where we're meant to be. Our next choice is the only one that we could possibly make. We cannot make anyone previously or anyone past that. So, anybody got anything else? Summers?
I always have one last comment.
I know. So did Sid, apparently.
I'm so grateful to be here with both of you and with Sid. And Sid's timing is impeccable as always to bring love into the conversation and laughter, which that's what I want to end on. That's my closing thought. Your thoughts, your actions, the way you live your life, if it's based in love and unconditional love, meaning it's not based on well, I love you, I will do this if. There are no ifs. It's just I'm acting from a place of love and kindness for me and for everybody else. There's no selfishness in that. That's the key. That's literally the key to all of this. It's that simple. Because once you love yourself, it starts the process of letting go of some of these things. The ability, you'll give yourself the space and the grace to let those thoughts that hinder you or bother you, you'll let them flow through your thoughts so that you can process them. And that's where healing begins.
Well, I think that's a good ending note, and I appreciate both of you tremendously. I am so grateful to both of you, and we definitely will be doing this again and have to figure out another topic that we can all barely relate on, because we're not relatable at all. And we'll come together with Sid and bring tons of unexpected joy to this. But I really do appreciate both of you, and sharing space with both of you is magical. And Kelly in the background, I appreciate you more than anything, and you're part of this whole bigger picture, and I appreciate you as well. So thank you for everything you do for all of us, and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you,
Bye.
Kelly.
Thank you,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
Bye.